You have this Agile Manifesto, which has like several values, core values. And one of these values is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. And when I see how software developers work these days, I would say that this value is not fulfilled at all. I mean, there's a lot of process in software development, and tools are very important, right? If you think about the whole like CI/CD and then Jira, and um, yeah, I don't know how to make a clear question out of it, but somehow I believe that if we have such a value, it needs to be fulfilled, right? Or what do you say about it?
No, it absolutely needs to be fulfilled. I mean, this is one of the preconditions for doing Scrum or Agile properly. The So much of Agile is about communication and making sure that it's transparent, because you never know who has the information that you need or needs the information that you have, which is why transparency, which is why all of these interactions is necessary. And if you skip that step, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And unfortunately, um, yeah, I mean, it's convenient to centralize information. For instance, if I'm a project manager, there's a lot of things that I might know that you might not know as the engineer. And it's easy for me to just not tell you because you don't need to know this at the moment. And for some things, maybe that's right, but often that attitude can really lead to a hub and spoke communication pattern where, in order to get this piece of information, uh, anyway, the hub and spoke for one for one spoke to talk to the other, you need to talk through the hub, the PO, for instance, the project manager, for instance, the program manager, whoever's the hub at that time. Meanwhile, with this interactions thing, it's really talking directly to the people who you need to talk to, who have the information that you need, and you know that they have that information because you've heard them speak, etc., etc. And often this is also the clients. It's about not talking to your client through the PO, through the project manager. It's really that you, the engineer, talk to the client. Maybe the PO joins in, maybe they don't, but at the end of the day, you're empowered to chase the information that you need, just to make sure that things happen quicker, and that, yeah, there's no centralization.
Um, Okay, so but what you're saying here is that the agile idea is there, but it's applied in the wrong way, right? I mean, we just have to say, like let's say the software developers I work together with, I mean, they had a lot of process and a lot of tools they had to use. There was few left from the interactions, right? I mean, they rarely spoke to the client directly. It's always the
Yeah.
product owner who takes that over. How you see it? Is it applied in the wrong way, or is it inherently problematic?
Sure. For something as simple as Scrum or something as grand as Safe, if you do not first pay attention to the principles and the values and really learn to live those, everything else is downstream and it's going to be garbage. And this is one of the big problems. With Scrum, maybe it's not so bad, because, okay, maybe the PO talks to the client. It's not necessarily the end of the world, as long as the engineers and the PO are working extremely close together. But if that dynamic happens, then, why are the POs talking to the client when the PM is talking? The project managers should be talking to them. So there's always this tension between what's actually happening and people's desires, generally for more influence, um, and that can really get in the way. So a lot of the values and the principles of Agile are to help companies and help teams resist those kind of influences for consolidation of influence, consolidation of information. Yeah.
Okay. When we set up a new team, which is completely free, they don't have any past experience, what would you recommend how to start? Would you recommend starting with Scrum, or would you say, let's develop, let's do our thing according to the values?
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend Scrum outright. Um, I would recommend that the values of Agile are looked over because I really do believe that they're good and there's something very powerful there. But because Agile, even something as basic as Scrum, is really just a tool, first you need to make sure that the tool is the right one. Um, the the way I would start it is saying, "Hey, team, this is what we need to accomplish. Let's work on that and develop our understanding of that, and let's just get down to it." And
Yeah, and actually, this is exactly what I thought all the time. Yeah?
yeah,
That why do we tell them what to do?
yeah,
Or no, I mean we have to tell them what to develop, but not how to develop it, right?
exactly,
Let them
exactly.
make their own mistakes. Yeah,
And it will be messy. A bit of time will be lost, but not much. But the whole point is that you let the team, again, using the values and the principles of Agile, um, or whatever they want. I mean, again, it's not prescriptive to say that they should look at the values of Agile because they can also reject them if they're not working for them, for instance. But the team needs to go on a journey of self discovery about what works best for them. And then along the way, you figure out their pains and you work with them to solve those pains. And you see where that goes. Very likely, it will go towards something like Scrum. It might not be full Scrum, etc. But this is an interesting conversation on its own about whether Scrum is the minimal viable agile unit, and if you can actually remove things from Scrum without totally wrecking it. Um, the challenge with that, though, is that the um, there are certain ceremonies within Scrum that feel like bloatware. It's we should really be spending this 1 hour doing more development as opposed to learning about what went wrong and what went right or demoing our product, whatever. But at the end, they're extremely important to have. Um,
yeah. I mean
the
maybe you can replace them with something else, but you should replace them, right? You cannot
Yeah,
just omit them or
the challenge of letting the team discover its own needs um, is that you might end up at a compromised version of Scrum. And so this is where the idea of discipline really comes in, because quality needs to be baked in. And you can develop, and you can develop quickly if you use a highly compromised version of Scrum. But you might be really shooting yourself in the foot by missing certain ceremonies. The retro, for instance, not too many people
but
like
I
the
think the
retro,
retro is
unless,
something no one wants to get rid of. So more, I mean, people want to make it shorter, but everyone understands the value.
yeah,
It's
okay,
more about sprint planning, also things like this, which are a kind of burden for many.
sure, sure. So, I
Yeah.
mean, to each their own. I mean, my team's complained about different ones than yours, maybe. Um, but the idea is that, again, yeah, some teams might want to remove one of the basic Scrum elements, and arguably, it might be the result of bad habits or not knowing, and they will take a longer time to figure that out. So it's always a bit difficult to let teams figure out what they need, and I do believe there needs to be some guidance, somebody there to call the team out on bad habits and not let bad habits express themselves. It's like, if you're on a diet, it's like, yeah, you've eaten, very little calories today, but what are you doing eating that huge Big Mac? Oh, you're hungry. Well, why are you hungry? Because you ate so little before. I mean, there's people can really trick themselves into some bad situations, and without good guidance, without a
Mm.
objective third party observing the dynamics of the group and kind of bringing them a bit of discipline, then yeah, it's not advisable for teams to go on self-discovery. But even though Scrum is the likely conclusion for a lot of these self-discovery journeys of teams, I'm highly suspicious, or sorry, it's highly suspect that Scrum is already determined to be the goal. I mean, or to be the tool that they use. Yeah, maybe it's a starting point, etc., but often not, because if Scrum is automatically prescribed, it might be because that the rest of the company is also using Scrum, which means that they're already using some scaled things like solution trains or release trains, etc., and therefore the company might already be doing a scaled version of Agile, which they might have also picked up with the same kind of due diligence that they're recommending this team do Scrum for. Maybe the team should be doing Kanban. Maybe the company should be doing less and not safe. But because uh, some things are better known than others, they feel like the obvious choice. They feel like the safe choice. And without that journey of self discovery in the team or the company, the wrong tool could very easily be chosen, and it can really do a lot of damage. So, this is why I defend that Agile, done properly, is just a form of organizational development, and that because it's just an approach, um, it shouldn't be a given, and that way I think that Agile is again a subset of organizational development.
And when we talk about these ceremonies, um, it's not always obvious why they are there, right? It would be good. Actually, I think, I mean, at least I'm, as an engineer, work like this. If I know what something is for, it's much easier to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you say the retro is for, yeah, I mean, learning from the mistakes. Yeah, one example, it's too easy. Yeah, but then it's something, yeah, maybe we don't need a retro, but we need a way to learn from our mistakes. Yeah? Um, so the goal is something I agree on. I might find another way of implementing it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I'm missing a bit. Yeah? That you are presented with some options and you don't know what they are good for.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, everything in Agile. So there's two different attitudes in Agile or the law or whatever. It's, you either do things to the letter of the law or you do things in the spirit of the law. And unfortunately, it's up to whoever is the cop or whoever is the Agile coach or whoever is the CEO to figure out that. And there's a lot of conflict when something is done to the letter, but other people are doing it to the spirit. And that, yeah. So the idea of doing Scrum in the spirit of Scrum, where maybe you skip a particular ceremony, but you figure out another way of getting that same information, and the team is happy with that. That's totally fine. But then again comes the idea of conflict, or sorry, of discipline. Are they actually getting all of the information that they should? Are they having the conversations that they should? Are we learning the things that we actually should by skipping this ceremony and replacing it with this other thing? Or is it just kind of like a cheap knockoff just to tick that box and get it done? So, again, this is where a very uh, judicious, ballsy kind of coach needs to be there to make sure that things are actually being done with quality.